the one that is still used today for the Bible and the Testament. They also argue that the old printing is known by many people. So these things were discussed, and it has agreed that those letters, the new ones, the old ones, should not be changed, and that writing and printing should be done only in the old letters. However, the letter H will be used to differentiate tlala, hunger, from tal, divorce. The report indicates that one little but significant victory was won concerning the inclusion of H in the syllable TL. This meant that from that point on, or whenever the revision occurs, Genesis 1:1 could now read as, in the beginning God created the heavens, instead of in the beginning God jumped the heavens and the earth. Indeed, the Alfred Wuki Revised Version of Setswana Bible in 1908 did just that. The report from the Missionary Council, however, had more bad news than good ones. The overall concerns with the central consonants and vowels such as D, L, W, and the hyphenated O and E were rejected by the Missionary Council. The reasons given are quite telling. It was the views and the feelings of the missionaries that mattered. It was what they liked, which would stand. The prevailing current and better ways of writing Setswana, which are appreciated by Batswana, were to be reversed. The protests of Batswana about their distorted, meaningless language, which was now reduced to what they called English Setswana, a thing that is only heard or read as a reminder of a real thing, did not matter. Why? Because for these missionaries, like the old way of printing. The report goes on to say, so these things were discussed. It was agreed that these letters should not be changed, and that the writing and printing should be done in the old ways, old letters, that is the Robert Moffat Setswana Bible translation of 1840. All right. Following this report of rejection, the letters to the editors indicate that many Batswana objected to this decision, and others pleaded for the decision to be reconsidered, to no avail. They were in fact protesting to what was concluded, a non-negotiable issue, until such a time that it would please the missionary to reverse it. Shot down, forced to write and read Setswana according to the stuttering tongue of a child, forced to read and write in English Setswana, the Batswana were nonetheless not helpless. In fact, they had already developed strategies of reading that circumvents the imposed discourse of the English Setswana. Yet they had hoped it could be corrected, but now that they had been informed that it will be maintained as the standard way of writing the Setswana language was what the missionaries liked, the Batswana readers fell back to their strategies of reading as resisting readers. Dikukwani Gabautlu, who wrote in response to the report using Genesis 1, illustrates the point. He says, I see the old written Setswana in the Bible as we read in Genesis chapter 1. There we find, like, Murimu ulowa tlula mahorimu lile hasi mosimologo. But when we read it, we say, Mudimo uile atlola mahodimo lile fatsi mosimologo. In the quote, Habutli says, their reading strategy overlooks the colonial missionaries' constructed English Setswana language. Instead, when they read the Robert Moffat from their oral base, when they read Robert Moffat Bible, they read it from their oral base, putting back all the consonants and the vowels that have been ignored and left out that makes them infants when they read. So in fact, even if the verse said, God jumped the heavens and the earth, they read it as in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. I have to say that really there was more problems in this translation. This reading strategy is further confirmed by Sebutsen Luatile, who responded to the missionary report saying, I am very happy to read the newspaper and to hear what is happening. I hear about nations and the word of God. But concerning the letters that have been taken out, I am concerned. I assume that our Bible was printed as it is because the missionaries had not grasped our language. But now they understand our language and they speak it well. So I'm surprised that they are removing the core letters. Here, everyone who reads the books is not happy about this removal of the correct letters. You should know, he says, I quote, that when we read our Bible, we change the letters with our mouths. This reading strategy of reading from the base of the oral tradition is quite significant. What is in the oral base is the whole culture, another canon embodied by the community. The refusal to change that was overtly wrong assisted Botswana readers to openly assert their oral tradition and understanding as the main point of reference than the English Setswana Bible as the final authority of their culture. This was crucial since the English Setswana translation of the Bible involved more than just the replacements of consonants and vowels newly created. It also included changing Botswana's spiritual world from the sacred to the evil in order to supplant it with Christianity. An excellent example, which I have written about, was the translation of Badimu into demons, that is, ancestors were translated as demons. I narrate my encounter with this translation in order to illustrate how the Botswana ways of reading from the Tswana oral base subverts the colonial discourse of darkness and heathens that was within the translations. In 1995, I returned from the US to carry out my field work. My task was to read Matthew 15, 21 to 28 with Botswana women. In the process, I discovered something else. The ancestors, Badimu, had been translated as demons in the Alfred Hugi Revised Tswana Bible of 1908. I did not have the access to Robert Moffat, which I still don't have, Robert Moffat Original Bible of 1857, to verify where this use of ancestors or demons originated. Where Matthew 15:21 said, "My daughter is severely possessed by the demons," in the Setswana translation it said, "My daughter is severely possessed by Badimu or the ancestors." Where Jesus cast out demons, Jesus cast out Badimu. I was shocked to my bones by this translation, so much so that I virtually ran all over the New Testament, I mean it, running, to all the other passages where Jesus cast out demons to check whether this is true. And yes, I discovered a very sad story. The ancestors had been translated as demons in the Setswana Bible. It was unbelievable. Almost desperately, I turned to Mark 5, where Jesus cast out the legion of the demons that possessed a madman. I found out that in the Setswana Bible of 1908, Jesus cast out the legion of Badimu, my ancestor, who ran into the sea and got buried. It was a textual burial of Badimu. I was virtually trembling, shocked that the Botswana who first read the so-called Word of God were made to discover that their venerated sacred figures were in fact nothing but just evil demons. What a perfect way of proving that Botswana were helpless, heathen, lost in the darkness, especially to a missionary who had a problem, because every time he tried to tell them they are sinners, they said there is not one sinner in this tribe. I thought to myself, for more than a century and a half, Botswana Bible readers consumed this colonial bomb, planted to explode their cultures away. They could not read Greek for themselves to check it out if it was representative of the closest equivalent term. I was trembling. But that was before I discovered that the first Botswana readers had long learned to read the Bible from their oral cultural base than the missionary perspective of heathen heathens and darkness. And as expressed by Luatile, you should know that when we read our Bible, we change the letters with our mouths. But how would they reinstate the demons and the ancestors? Again, I have to say, this was a separate but pleasant discovery. In the process of reading the Bible with non-academic women who were church leaders in African independent churches, I found out that they use the Bible as a divination set. Now, divination in Setswana involves consulting Badimo about all situations of concerns in life and finding usable solution. It involves recognizing Badimo as mediators between the living and the dead and God. So far from Badimo functioning as demons in the Botswana ways of reading, those who read the Bible, Badimo together with Jesus were divine forces and powers of positive than negative power. I could not have imagined this U-turn. This strategy of playing hide and seek depends on reading the Bible with and through Botswana cultures. It depends on using the authority of African traditions than giving the English Setswana Bible the final word. This is a strategy of the thief, taking a story that conflicted with their values and telling it in such that to them it was a good story again. Although to Bohannan, it no longer seemed quite the same story. In these processes, we are in touch with the forces of globalization that Bohannan and localization, the TIV and the Botswana reading, appropriating the texts more according to their cultures, texts that were globalized by agents of globalizations, Moffat and Bohannan. I must stop here. I don't know what is my time. I'll stop.